All right, so I thought we'd look a bit at emotions and emotional resilience today, and then we'll obviously discuss. And just to say, emotions are what make us human. They give us the depth and the vibrancy to life, but they can also hijack us and create great suffering, as we know. It's important to understand that emotions are meant to be felt, digested, in other words, or processed, just like food is. You know, we can't just ignore them. They need to work through us, and they're meant to move, which is why I believe they're called emotions. They're meant to move through us, but sometimes they get stuck. So they're very important, but sometimes they can fail to be processed properly. And as we know, that can happen particularly when we're overwhelmed, and particularly if we've had that as an experience in our childhood as well. So yeah, if I were to ask you, how are you, which we do, don't we, when we first meet people, but if I was to really, you know, let you be honest, you know, rather than just saying I'm fine, how are you really? And maybe you're stressed, maybe you're aware you're stressed, maybe you're feeling a bit down or depressed right now, or a bit anxious or flying off the handle, as we say, getting a bit upset for no apparent reason, or suffering any unexplained symptoms. Sometimes that can be the only symptom we have, and we're not aware that it's stress related. And a lot of these symptoms could have emotional roots. That's what I find. In fact, I would say there's no physical symptom that doesn't have some emotional component. And I know it's a very controversial position, but that's my belief. Because emotions are actually not just feelings. Okay, they're not just the feelings you have immediately. They actually have an energy vibration or a signal, particularly to our neurohormonal system, that changes the way our body functions. So it changes your biology, and it can create illness when chronically repressed. So you're not processing properly. It's like if you were eating loads of food but not digesting it, you get ill fairly quickly. And it's the same with emotions, really. And they can get very unbalanced, particularly if this repression or kind of inhibition goes on for a long time. Because emotions are signals. So if you imagine a scale, a bit like the range of light frequencies, from the low level vibration to the high level vibration, we exhibit these emotional scales because we are energetic beings. We're not just physical, and what we think and what we feel has a resonance. And so just like thoughts or beliefs, and emotions can be either expansive or contracting. And I don't want to say good or bad. I really want to get away from good emotion or bad emotion. There's no such thing. All emotions are valid, but some help us to feel in balance with ourselves and help us to feel connected and joyful. Let's say joy, love, peace are all what I would say expansive emotions. And then things like fear and grief and guilt and shame. Shame is right down the bottom note. Okay, that's a really very, very important emotion that most people have and don't know. They send messages to your body cells, you see, either the message all is well and we're fine and life is good, or we're under threat. And that's a very big signal if that comes in, because it changes the way our cells repair and restore. And so we're bound to have issues eventually. So yes, emotions are complex. They're part of normal human expression, but they're not all the same. And when we have constant feelings that are, you know, contracting emotions of shame or guilt or fear, it sets in motion this cell danger response. It teaches our bodies that we are unsafe, and it undermines our health hugely. So this is a very important understanding that is completely missing from modern medicine. I think, you know, medicine recognizes stress as an issue, but it doesn't really deal with emotions. And there are some emotions that really stand out when we look at them. And I think when I'm looking here at complex emotions, all right, so these are ones that have a cognitive input as well. So they're kind of emotions that we make meaning out of. And these are particularly difficult. And these are the three that I think stand out: abandonment, betrayal, and humiliation, which are difficult emotions to handle, particularly when we're young, and they induce shame. They may also induce fear, and they produce these body reactions as well. And it's all so much worse if we are highly sensitive. So high sensitivity is a really big issue for those of us who, you know, came through a childhood where we weren't supported in some way, we weren't heard, we weren't felt. And so we never learned to really process our emotions well. And then, you know, it goes deeply into our bodies and we hold it for decades. You know, we do not, it doesn't decrease with time. So we actually have to approach our emotions to heal them. We can't ignore them. They don't get better on their own. And the problem is that these three in particular are regarded as a survival threat, a threat to our survival by our emotional brain. Now, I'm sorry, some of the wording is cut off because I forgot about Zoom. When it records, it puts the people in on the right. So I hope you can read that, but I'll make the slides available anyway. So old unprocessed emotions, particularly childhood memories, emotional memories, where we felt unsafe or unheard, are the ones that do the damage. And if there was no one to share this with us, it could be that, you know, our parents weren't emotionally available to us in whatever way, or we were largely left to our own devices. If there was no one to allow us to feel what we needed to feel, we forget how to process and we don't know how to deal with it. So it becomes then a pattern of repression and emotional stuckness. I'm sure there is a better word for stuckness, but that's the word I can think of at the moment. And it starts to cause symptoms usually when you start to hit adulthood. That's when the symptoms show up. And so emotional resilience is about the ability to bounce back. If you think about resilience as a word, it means that something that's squashed or deformed, springing back. And that's what emotional resilience is meant to be. It's meant to be you have the emotion, but you're able to respond to it appropriately and come back into equilibrium after it's happened. And we're very much designed to feel emotions in a safe environment in order to process them properly. And that's how we learn emotional resilience. And I didn't have emotional resilience. I had everything else. I had cognitive awareness and I was, you know, skilled at making my way in the world, but knowing how to respond to emotions and deal with them and not be completely hijacked by them was something I just didn't have. So that we can feel things and then be okay afterwards. Basically, we can feel and then be okay. And so this social interpersonal support is so key to people being able to process. And that's, I believe, why I've created this and why we're here and why I'm doing everything I'm doing right now to create that. Yeah, so we need to be able to think, which many of us are good at until we have overwhelming feelings, and then our thinking brain goes offline and then we're completely all over the place. And it's very difficult to make good decisions when you're that hijacked. So learning to think and feel at the same time is really about brain integration. The left and the right need to talk to each other well, and the front and the back, because we've got this survival brain at the back as well as the thinking brain at the front. And of course, our heart brain, we've got another brain in the heart, we've also got one in the gut, and all of those brains need to talk to each other. So it's all about connectivity, really, in the body. And depression is considered a disease by modern medicine, but actually what it is it's an imbalance. It's actually, I've been reading about this recently, it's a right brain overactivation. So we feel things so deeply, but we can't integrate them with the part of our brain that knows that they're over. So we absorb it as a constant feeling of overwhelm and, you know, apathy or despair. And it comes about when our emotional needs are not met in some way. So depression is a signal. It's a signal that all is not well in our life, and it's a wake-up call rather than a symptom that needs to be suppressed. And I will be covering a little bit more about that next time. So I don't want to overwhelm you. This isn't a lecture. I'll be doing a little bit more on the brain and recovery and that sort of thing. So I just thought it'd be interesting to find out from you guys, what emotions do you find particularly difficult? And how have you dealt with them in the past? I thought that might be an interesting question. And how could you improve your resilience? So any one of those questions, or all three of them, whatever you'd like to contribute. I'm going to I'll stop sharing, I think, now, and then we're back into the room, and then I will stop the recording so that your contributions are personal to you.